thought that four scrawny kids back in the early 80s with raw talent and a passion for heavy metal would go on to become the biggest metal band of all time. Metallica has forged a legacy as the most globally known flag-bearer of heavy metal. The band has a long and storied history that spanned 4 decades, and they've produced some of the most influential albums in the genre. From their early days in the Bay Area thrash scene to their current status as one of the best-selling bands in the world, Metallica's story has had its share of ups and downs, including wounded friendships that have since healed, controversies, and a tragedy that once put the future of the band in question. How did Metallica rise from underground thrash icons to undisputed heavy metal titans? Stick around as we dive into the story of Metallica and explore how these thrashers grew into global superstars. Today, Metallica is one of, if not the most popular metal band on the planet, and were integral in bringing heavy metal into the mainstream. But before they became the world's biggest metal band, they were just young, rebellious dudes who enjoyed the new wave of British heavy metal, drank loads of alcohol, and wanted to play really fast. The beginnings of the Metallica date back to the early 1980s. The band was formed in Los Angeles by drummer Lars Ulrich and guitarist and vocalist James Hetfield. The pair met through a classified ad in a local newspaper and quickly bonded over their love of heavy metal. They soon began rehearsing together and recruiting other members to join their band. One of the first members to join Metallica was guitarist Dave Mustaine, a talented musician who quickly became integral to the band's sound. The band recorded its first song, Hit the Lights, for the first edition of the compilation album Metal Massacre, which was released by Brian Slagel, founder of Metal Blade Records. Soon after, the band hired its first bassist, Ron McGovney. However, his stint was short-lived, and he frequently clashed with the other band members, which led to his exit. Soon after, the band saw the band Trauma at the Whiskey A Go-Go, which featured bassist Cliff Burton. Impressed by his unique playing style, the band asked Cliff to join Metallica. Although he initially declined, he accepted the invitation months later on the condition that the band moved to San Francisco, which they did. By May 1983, Metallica was ready to record their debut album. However, Mustaine's wild behavior, fueled by heavy drinking and drug use, led to tension within the group. Mustaine was eventually fired from the band that year after they arrived in New York to record their album, and was put on a bus back to Los Angeles. He went on to form his own successful band, Megadeth. After Mustaine's ejection, Metallica recruited former Exodus lead guitarist Kirk Hammett as his replacement. With the lineup complete again, the band proceeded to record their debut album, Kill 'Em All. It was released in July 1983 and was a hit within the underground metal community. Featuring fan favorites like The Four Horsemen, Whiplash, and Seek and Destroy, the album combined the speed of hardcore punk with the technical proficiency of heavy metal. It proved influential for later bands, and was a huge part in shaping the heavy metal landscape at the time. Critics now refer to Kill 'Em All as one of, if not the album that gave birth to thrash metal. The band released its next album, Ride the Lightning, a year later. Considered by many as Metallica's heaviest album, it saw the band expanding its brand of thrash by incorporating more dynamics and more sophisticated musicianship. Bassist Cliff Burton, a classically trained pianist, had a lot of input in the music this time, which contributed to the record's elevated songwriting. Like its predecessor, it was acclaimed by both fans and critics. Metallica set themselves as one of the top names in the metal scene with the 1-2 punch of Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, but their next release would establish them as the undisputed kings of the genre. 1986 is regarded as one of the most important years in thrash. The year saw the release of some of the genre's most influential albums, such as Megadeth's Peace Sells But Who's Buying and Slayer's Rain and Blood. But standing head and shoulders above all of them was Metallica's third album, Master of Puppets. Considered the band's magnum opus, Master of Puppets brought Metallica its first taste of commercial success. But more than that, it impacted thrash and heavy metal as a whole like no other record has ever done. Many fans and observers rate Master of Puppets as the best heavy metal album of all time. As proof of its timelessness, it's the only heavy metal album to be selected by the U.S. Library of Congress to be preserved in the National Recording Registry. The band went on to tour to support the album, where they played to arena-size audiences for the first time in their career. Unfortunately, tragedy struck the band during a tour stop in Stockholm, Sweden. On September 27, 1986, the bus carrying the band skidded off the road and crashed, resulting in the death of bassist Cliff Burton. The bassist's death was a devastating blow to the band, especially considering his contributions to their musical growth. However, they chose to soldier on and eventually hired Jason Newsted as their new bassist. Newsted finished the rest of their supporting tour and made his studio debut with Metallica on their 1987 extended play, Garage Days Revisited. Metallica released its fourth album, And Justice for All, in 1988. The first album featuring Newsted on bass, it saw Metallica take their brand of thrash to the limit and included some of their most technical and complex songs. Despite criticisms regarding its production, particularly its lack of audible bass, the album was another huge success and brought the band closer to mainstream doors. Metallica made its first ever music video for the single One and became the first heavy metal band to perform at the Grammy Awards in 1989. That same year, they were nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock and Metal Performance. Although many expected Metallica to win, the Grammy instead went to Jethro Tull, who didn't even consider themselves a metal band. This caused great controversy during awards night, with many feeling that Metallica was robbed. As the band rolled into the 90s, Metallica felt that a change was in order. Lars Ulrich felt that they had taken their style of thrash as far as it can go, and instead of creating something even faster and even more complex, the best thing to do was go the opposite route. That's exactly what Metallica did with their self-titled fifth album, known to many as the Black Album. It featured slower and simpler songs such as fan favorites Enter Sandman, Sad But True, and The Unforgiven. It even featured a sentimental power ballad in Nothing Else Matters. The Black Album was a massive success. It was the first Metallica album to peak at #1 on the Billboard 200 and remains the band's most commercially successful album to this day. However, the stylistic shift didn't sit well with longtime fans who were used to Metallica's more aggressive thrash sound. As a result, many fans or ex-fans accused the band of selling out by putting out something that appealed more to mainstream audiences. Metallica took these changes further with the releases of Load and Reload in 1996 and 1997 respectively. These albums found the band adopting a more hard rock style, with tinges of blues and alternative rock sprinkled all over these records. These musical changes, not to mention an image shift where they adopted short hairstyles and outfits that would make the pages of fashion magazines, alienated many fans. Regardless, both albums were commercially successful. By the turn of the new millennium, Metallica became embroiled in controversy when Lars Ulrich sued the peer-to-peer file-sharing network Napster over leaked demos of the song I Disappear. The suit was one among many others which ultimately led to the website shutting down. By this point, Metallica had been going at it for almost 20 years, and internal tensions were starting to boil over, particularly between Lars and James. Newsted quit the band at the start of 2001, just when plans for a new album were being laid out. Later that year, James went into rehab to address his alcoholism and other issues, forcing the band to pause its recording activities. During this period, the band sought a therapist to help them resolve their issues. For Lars, one of the things he had to do was confront former bandmate Dave Mustaine over the latter's ejection almost 2 decades ago. Footage of the band during this tumultuous period was compiled and released as the 2004 documentary Metallica: Some Kind of Monster.
And James, we had dreams together.
The documentary took its title from one of the songs featured on the album Saint Anger, which was released the year prior. Apart from the drama surrounding its making, the album became infamous for its raw production, lack of guitar solos, and Lars' awful snare sound. After its recording, the band hired bassist Robert Trujillo to complete their lineup again. Metallica spent the next few years touring and performing all over the world. 5 years after the release of Saint Anger, they released their next album, 2008's Death Magnetic. Produced by Rick Rubin, the album features the band returning to their 80s thrash roots with fast songs and complex sections. The anticipated album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, making Metallica the first band ever to have 5 consecutive albums debut at the top of the chart. In 2009, Metallica took their rightful place at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Former bassists Cliff Burton and Jason Newsted were inducted as well, and Newsted joined the band for a performance during the ceremony. The following year, Metallica joined Slayer, Anthrax, and most importantly, Megadeth for a series of performances in Europe. This marked the first time the Big Four of thrash performed on the same bill. The following year, as one of their live performances in San Francisco celebrating their 30th anniversary, Dave Mustaine joined the band on stage to perform a couple of their Kill 'Em All songs. It was the first time Mustaine performed with Metallica in 3 decades and confirmed that both parties have finally buried the hatchet after all these years. Metallica released their 10th album, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, in 2016. Like Death Magnetic before it, the album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, making Metallica only the second band ever to achieve 6 consecutive albums debuting on the chart's top spot. And this year, they're set to unveil their highly anticipated album, 72 Seasons. Already 40 years into their career, it appears the adrenaline hasn't worn off yet for these heavy metal veterans. Old age may slow down some people, but certainly not Metallica, and whatever they have in store for the future, the metal world will surely be along for the ride.